You've been told your whole life to play it safe, to stay in your lane, to not rock the boat, to do what's comfortable, what's predictable, what's secure. But let me ask you a real question. What has that safety really cost you? Because, make no mistake, it is costing you. Safety isn't free. Playing small isn't free. Holding back isn't free. It is the most expensive decision of your life, and many people don't realize it until it's too late. Safety feels good because it gives you the illusion of certainty. You avoid rejection, you avoid embarrassment, you avoid failure, but you also avoid growth, you avoid impact, you avoid discovering what you are actually capable of. And the truth is that avoidance is costing you the very life you've been dreaming of. The dream doesn't die because you aren't worthy, or because it's impossible, or because you're unlucky. It dies because you suffocate it under layers of comfort and excuses. Every breakthrough in your life has only ever happened when you stepped into uncertainty. Think back. The best things you've ever achieved didn't come from sitting safely on the sidelines. They came when you said yes, even though you were scared, when you took a risk, even though you didn't know the outcome. Growth has never come from safety. It has always come from courage, and here's the truth no one wants to admit. The people who play it safe are not safe at all, because life is not static. You are either growing or you are dying. Playing safe keeps you in the illusion of control, but all it really does is guarantee regret. Regret for the opportunities you didn't take. Regret for the potential you never unlocked. Regret for the person you could have been but chose not to become. You see, comfort zones are not where legends are made. Comfort zones are where dreams go to die. If you want extraordinary, you must be willing to embrace risk, uncertainty, and even failure. Because the truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the tuition you pay for mastery. It is the training ground that forges strength, resilience, and brilliance. Every single person you admire today, every innovator, leader, creator, athlete, or visionary, they got there because they stopped playing it safe. They were willing to risk looking foolish. They were willing to risk criticism. They were willing to risk falling flat on their face. And because of that willingness, they tapped into a part of themselves most people never access. The question is, are you willing? Are you willing to stop clinging to the illusion of safety that is slowly stealing your future? Are you willing to take the leap into the unknown, knowing that's where your greatness lies? Are you willing to be uncomfortable long enough to finally experience what it means to be alive? Because make no mistake, your breakthrough is not waiting for you in the safe zone. It's waiting for you in the uncertainty, in the risk, in the courage to say, I'm done being comfortable. Playing it safe is costing you your dreams, your freedom, your fulfillment, your legacy, and the cost is far too high. So stop protecting your comfort and start protecting your calling. Stop living for safety and start living for possibility. Stop trading in your future for a little temporary ease. Life is not meant to be played safe, it's meant to be played full out. Safety feels comfortable, but it comes at the price of growth, opportunity, and fulfillment. Think about it. From the time you were a child, you were taught to look for safety. Don't climb too high, don't take too many risks, don't speak too loud, don't be different. That conditioning goes so deep that by the time most people become adults, they build their entire lives around the pursuit of comfort and security. And it feels good. It feels reassuring because in the moment you avoid pain, you avoid embarrassment, you avoid uncertainty. But what's really happening underneath is that you're trading the extraordinary for the ordinary, the possible for the predictable, and the life you could be living for the life you think you can control. And that trade robs you of growth, opportunity, and fulfillment. The most dangerous thing about playing it safe is that it doesn't look dangerous at all. It looks smart. It looks reasonable. People applaud you for it. You look responsible, dependable, cautious. But silently, it chips away at your dreams because every time you say no to risk, you're also saying no to possibility. Every time you avoid discomfort, you're avoiding the muscle that discomfort builds. And every time you stay in your comfort zone, you choose the illusion of safety over the reality of progress. Life doesn't reward safety. It rewards courage, and every step toward your true potential will always demand that you pay a price in uncertainty. Look at any defining moment in your life where you felt proud, alive, unstoppable. Chances are it wasn't when you played safe. It was when you said yes even though you were scared, when you stood up even though you weren't sure of the outcome, when you risked being judged, rejected, or even failing. That's when you grew. That's when you stepped into a version of yourself you didn't even know existed. Safety never gave you that. Comfort never unlocked that. Playing it safe doesn't allow those breakthroughs to happen, because growth is born in challenge, and challenge never lives in the safe zone. The truth is, playing safe costs you opportunities that may never come back. Time moves forward whether you take risks or not, and opportunities are always moving with it. You hesitate because you want to feel prepared, because you want to wait until everything is perfect. But perfection is the enemy of progress. Waiting until you feel safe will guarantee you miss the very door that could change your life. You'll see it pass by and tell yourself you'll catch the next one, but life doesn't work like that. The cost of that hesitation is opportunity slipping through your fingers, and no amount of comfort will ever replace the pain of knowing you let it go, and then there's fulfillment. You can't feel truly fulfilled when you play it safe. You can feel secure, you can feel calm, you can feel consistent, but you can't feel alive. Fulfillment comes from knowing you're growing, stretching, becoming more than you were yesterday. It comes from chasing something that demands more from you than you thought you could give. And that can never happen if all your energy goes into protecting yourself from risk. The human spirit isn't designed to stay safe. It's designed to expand, to create, to push boundaries. Playing it safe starves your spirit, because safety can feed your comfort, but it can never feed your soul. Safety is the greatest thief of all, because it doesn't take from you all at once. It steals little by little, moment by moment. It makes you settle for less today, and then a little less tomorrow, until one day you look back and realize you gave away years to the illusion of security. And by the time people notice what safety has cost them, it's often too late. They've spent so long playing safe that their dreams feel unreachable, their potential feels wasted, and the regret feels unbearable. That's the real cost of safety, not the risks you avoided, but the life you never lived because you were too afraid to step into it. The irony is, the things you think you're protecting yourself from by playing safe, failure, rejection, embarrassment, are temporary. They sting, they hurt, but they pass. They teach you, they strengthen you, and they make you more capable. But the things you lose by avoiding risk, growth, opportunity, fulfillment, those losses don't fade. They stay with you. They become permanent gaps, empty spaces where your courage should have built something extraordinary. And that's the part most people never realize until the years have slipped away. So when you choose safety, you're not choosing nothing. You're choosing to pay a price, and it's the highest price you can ever pay, the price of your potential. Safety may feel good in the moment, but it costs you everything that matters in the long run. It costs you the chance to discover who you really are, the chance to create a life of meaning and impact, the chance to live in alignment with the fire that burns inside you. And once you understand that, you start to see that safety isn't safe at all. It's the most dangerous choice you can make, because it slowly and silently robs you of the very things you were put here to experience. Every breakthrough in life requires stepping into uncertainty and risk. It's easy to want the results without the discomfort, to want the transformation without the leap, to want the extraordinary without the fear. But the truth is, nothing great has ever been built inside the boundaries of certainty. Every invention, every movement, every breakthrough that has shifted the world forward was born out of risk. Someone was willing to stand in the unknown, to take a step without seeing the full staircase, to trust that they could handle whatever came on the other side of uncertainty. That is the price of progress. Without it, you stay trapped in the predictable cycle of what you already know, and what you already know will never be enough to create the life you truly desire. Think about it. The first time you learned anything new, you had to step into a place you didn't fully understand. Whether it was riding a bike, starting a new job, speaking up in a room where you weren't sure if your voice would be accepted, every meaningful advancement came with a degree of fear. That fear is the sign that growth is available. It's not a signal to stop, it's a signal to lean in. Yet most people interpret fear as danger and pull back. They think fear means they're not ready, when in reality, fear often means they're standing right on the edge of a breakthrough. Risk is not the enemy. Risk is the gatekeeper to transformation. The problem is, we've been conditioned to see uncertainty as something to avoid. We want guarantees, we want safety nets. We want to know exactly how things will turn out before we even begin. But that desire for certainty kills more dreams than failure ever could. Because the greatest opportunities of your life will never come with a guarantee attached. They come as a question. Will you take the leap even without knowing the outcome? Those who say yes discover new worlds, new strengths, new capacities within themselves. Those who say no stay in the same cycle, living the same year over and over again, mistaking predictability for progress. Every breakthrough requires courage. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward despite it. It means trusting yourself enough to believe that even if you fall, you'll figure out how to rise again. Courage is built in those moments of decision when everything in you wants to retreat, but something deeper in you says go. That's how you expand, that's how you evolve. Without risk, there is no expansion. Without uncertainty, there is no evolution. Without stepping into the unknown, you're just rehearsing the past instead of creating the future. Look at any story of success, and you'll find risk at its center. The entrepreneur who invested everything into an idea no one believed in. The artist who shared their work with the world, risking ridicule and rejection. The athlete who pushed their body past limits no one thought were possible. They all faced uncertainty, they all faced fear, they all faced risk. But it was in that risk that they found their breakthrough. The very thing most people run from is the very thing that forges greatness. Playing it safe has never built anything legendary. Playing it safe only guarantees you more of what you already have. And if what you already have isn't the life you're meant to live, then safety is nothing but a cage. Risk is uncomfortable because it strips you of control. But it also gives you something control never can: discovery. When you take a risk, you discover new parts of yourself. You uncover strengths you didn't know you had, creativity you didn't know existed, resilience you didn't believe you could access. Risk reveals you to yourself. Uncertainty stretches you into someone capable of more than you were yesterday. That's why every breakthrough requires it. Without that stretching, you never become more. You just recycle the same version of yourself, convincing yourself that stability is enough while secretly craving something more. The truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. It is the path to it. The risks that don't work out the way you hoped still move you forward because they teach, they sharpen, they clarify. Every so-called failure is just a step in the process of mastery, and once you embrace that, risk loses its power to paralyze you. You stop fearing what could go wrong and start asking what could go right. And that shift changes everything. The breakthrough isn't just in the result you get. It's in who you become by daring to step into the unknown in the first place. The people who wait until they feel certain before they act never move. They wait their entire lives for the perfect timing, the perfect plan, the perfect clarity. But perfection is just procrastination dressed up as preparation. The only way to create clarity is to move. The only way to create certainty is to act. Action births momentum, and momentum creates breakthroughs. You can't think your way into transformation, you can only act your way into it, and that action always demands risk. There is no other path. Every leap, every stretch, every risk you take is a declaration to life that you are ready for more. And life responds to that declaration with doors you never saw before. So when you find yourself standing on the edge of a decision, staring into the unknown, wondering if you should take the leap, remember this: everything you want is on the other side of risk. The life you dream of, the impact you want to make, the fulfillment you crave, it's all waiting for you. But only if you're willing to step into the uncertainty that terrifies most people. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you put yourself on the path of breakthrough. Every time you lean into risk instead of retreating, you bring yourself closer to the life you are meant to live. And that's why every breakthrough in life requires stepping into uncertainty and risk. Playing it safe doesn't protect you, it guarantees regret. We grow up believing that if we can just avoid mistakes, avoid risks, avoid anything uncertain, somehow we'll be secure, somehow we'll be protected. But the truth is, the walls you build to protect yourself eventually become the prison that confines you. When you live your life trying not to lose, you never actually win. You live in the illusion that safety is the shield, but in reality, it's the very thing that locks you into a cycle of sameness, stripping away your chances to live fully. And at the end of that cycle, when the years have passed and the opportunities are gone, you're left with one heavy weight that nothing can erase. The weight of regret. Regret is not born from trying and failing. Regret is born from never trying at all. Think about the times in your life when you took a risk, even if it didn't work out the way you planned. You may have felt disappointment, maybe even pain, but those feelings faded. You learned, you adjusted, you grew. But think about the moments when you didn't act, when you let fear talk you out of a chance, when you convinced yourself that waiting was the smarter move. Those moments stick with you. They come back at night. They whisper in your ear when you see someone else living the dream you once wanted. They linger in the back of your mind because you know deep down you didn't just miss an opportunity. You missed yourself when you play safe. You're not avoiding failure, you're inviting regret. You're choosing to look back on your life and wonder, what if I had spoken up? What if I had taken that leap? What if I had believed in myself instead of letting fear dictate my decisions? Those questions never go away because the answers were yours to create, but you chose not to. And here's the paradox. People think they're keeping themselves safe by avoiding risks, but what they're really doing is guaranteeing the one thing they fear most. Because no matter how secure you make your life, time still passes, opportunities still expire, and the regret of a life half lived is unavoidable if you always stay in your comfort zone. The sting of regret is worse than the sting of failure, because failure is temporary, but regret is permanent. Failure is something you can recover from. You can bounce back, you can try again, you can turn it into wisdom, but regret is final. You can't go back and change the chances you didn't take. You can't rewind time and step into the opportunities you let slip away. And that's the cost of playing safe. It robs you of the chance to even find out what could have been possible. It's like standing at the edge of the ocean, dipping your toes in the shallow waves and convincing yourself you've experienced the sea. While never daring to swim into the deep where the true beauty lies, we tend to glorify safety because it feels responsible. Stay in the stable job, keep the steady paycheck, don't take the risk on the dream because what if it doesn't work? But the truth is, no job, no paycheck, no security is ever truly guaranteed. Life has a way of disrupting even the safest plans. Companies collapse, industries change, economies shift. The safety you think you have is never as solid as you believe, and so, by refusing to chase your calling out of fear of losing safety, you often end up losing both, the safety and the dream. And in the end, all you're left with is the realization that you traded passion for security and wound up with neither. People at the end of their lives rarely regret the mistakes they made. They regret the chances they didn't take, the words they never said, the dreams they buried, the risks they avoided. They regret the love they didn't pursue, the business they didn't start, the adventure they never went on because they were too busy protecting themselves from failure. And what they realize too late is that failure would have been a small price to pay compared to the heavy burden of wondering forever what could have been. That's the cruel reality of regret. It grows with time, and once it has taken root, nothing can erase it, you see. Playing safe doesn't keep you safe at all. It keeps you small. It keeps you repeating the same patterns, circling the same routines, living the same year over and over and calling it a life. It numbs you because you're not challenged. It dulls you because you're not growing. And it steals from you because every day you don't step toward your true potential is a day you can never get back. Regret isn't just waiting for you at the end of your life. It builds silently in the present every time you choose safety over courage. It shows up in your lack of energy, your lack of excitement, your quiet dissatisfaction with the life you're pretending is enough. The only way to avoid regret is to lean into risk, to be willing to step into the unknown even when you're afraid, to choose courage over comfort. It doesn't mean being reckless. It means refusing to let fear dictate your future. It means understanding that safety is not the goal, growth is. Security is not the destination, fulfillment is. And fulfillment comes from knowing you lived fully, that you gave everything you had, that you dared to chase the life that called to you. Playing safe cannot give you that. It can only guarantee the opposite, a life of what-ifs, a life of unfinished dreams, a life of regret. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to mastery. From the time we're young, we're taught to fear failure as if it's a final judgment, as if making a mistake brands us forever incapable. We grow up associating failure with shame, embarrassment, weakness. But the truth is, failure is none of those things. Failure is feedback. Failure is information. Failure is the process through which growth becomes possible. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has walked through the fire of failure again and again, and it is precisely those moments that shaped them into who they became. Success doesn't come in spite of failure. It comes because of it. Think about how we learn anything in life. A child learning to walk doesn't just stand up one day and sprint across the room. They stumble, they fall, they cry, they try again. They fail repeatedly until their body learns balance, until their muscles grow stronger, until their coordination catches up. The falls are not setbacks, they are steps. Without those falls, walking would never happen. Yet somewhere along the way, as adults, we forget that principle. We think falling means we're not cut out for it. We think failing means we should stop. And in that moment, we rob ourselves of the very process that mastery requires. The people who achieve mastery in any area are not the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who embrace it, study it, and use it. Athletes who push their limits fall short again and again, but every miss refines their technique. Entrepreneurs launch ideas that flop, but every flop teaches them something about the market, about resilience, about innovation. Artists create work that isn't received well, but every attempt sharpens their voice and their vision. Failure is not a wall, it's a doorway. It doesn't stop you, it shapes you. And the more willing you are to walk through that doorway, the more mastery you build. The challenge is that most people are so terrified of failing that they never give themselves permission to even try. They wait until they think they can do it perfectly, until they're sure they won't stumble, until every variable is under control. But that day never comes. Perfection never arrives. And as a result, they stay stuck in theory, in planning, in the fantasy of who they could be while never becoming it. Their fear of failure keeps them from the very experiences that would teach them how to succeed. It's like wanting to swim without ever getting wet. You can't master what you refuse to practice, and practice always involves mistakes. The truth about failure is that it exposes your weaknesses, and that is the gift. Because only by exposing weaknesses can you strengthen them. Without failure, you remain blind to your gaps. Without mistakes, you never learn the adjustments you need to make. Success hides lessons. Failure reveals them. When everything goes right, you celebrate, but you don't grow much. When things fall apart, you're forced to look deeper, to problem solve, to innovate, to push yourself past the surface. That process is what builds the resilience and resourcefulness that mastery requires. Failure also builds character in a way success never can. Success feels good. It feeds your confidence. It validates you. But failure humbles you. It tests your commitment. It demands perseverance. It asks the question, how badly do you want this? Will you keep going even when the results don't show up right away? Will you stay in the game when things don't go according to plan? Mastery is not just about skill, it's about spirit, and failure is the training ground for that spirit. Without it, success is shallow and fragile. With it, success becomes unshakable because you know you've earned it through the struggle. Look at any great innovator, any visionary, any champion. Their stories are littered with failure. Some of the greatest companies in the world were born from earlier ventures that collapsed. Some of the most celebrated leaders were once dismissed as failures. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not the absence of failure but the response to it. Some people see failure as proof they should quit. Others see failure as proof they're in the arena, proof they're stretching, proof they're learning. And over time, that perspective transforms failure from an enemy into an ally. The reason failure feels so devastating is because we tie it to our identity. We think failing means we are failures, but failure is not who you are, it's simply what happened. It's an event, not a definition. When you separate your worth from your results, you gain freedom. You stop protecting your ego and start focusing on progress. You stop hiding from mistakes and start seeking them, knowing that each one brings you closer to mastery. The greatest performers in the world don't avoid mistakes. They hunt them down in practice so they can refine themselves. They understand that failure is the raw material out of which excellence is forged. The cost of avoiding failure is enormous. When you refuse to risk failing, you also refuse to risk succeeding. You stay trapped in mediocrity because mastery requires the willingness to stumble, to be vulnerable, to fall short. Playing it safe might protect you from embarrassment in the short term, but it guarantees you'll never touch your true potential. And the longer you avoid failure, the weaker you become in facing it. It's like a muscle that atrophies from disuse. The less you expose yourself to challenge, the less resilient you become, and the more terrifying failure appears. The only way to reclaim that power is to step into the risk again and again until failure loses its grip on you. Failure, when embraced, becomes the most powerful teacher. It shows you what doesn't work so you can focus on what does. It builds resilience, grit, and determination. It humbles you enough to stay open and hungry. It sharpens you in ways success never can. And most importantly, it puts you on the path to mastery. Because mastery isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about integrating lessons. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's not about everything going right, it's about continuing when everything goes wrong. That is the road that leads to true greatness. Your true potential and legacy live outside the comfort zone. Everything you've ever dreamed of becoming, everything you've imagined yourself achieving, everything you feel deep down you're meant to do, it doesn't exist where things are easy, predictable, and familiar. It lives in the unknown, in the uncertain, in the space where you are forced to stretch beyond what you already know. The comfort zone is not a place of creation, it's a place of maintenance. It's where you keep things the same, where you replay the same patterns, where you recycle the same experiences. And while that might feel safe, it's also the place where potential goes to sleep, and legacy disappears before it's ever built. Think about it. The people who have left behind legacies that still inspire generations were not the ones who chose comfort. They were the ones who chose courage, who were willing to step into arenas where failure was possible, where ridicule was guaranteed, where the outcome was uncertain. They risked being misunderstood. They risked standing alone. They risked giving everything without knowing if it would pay off. And because they risked, they discovered levels of themselves that the comfortable never find. They tapped into potential most people never access, because most people never dare to walk into the fire of discomfort long enough to uncover it. Potential is not something that reveals itself when life is easy. Potential is revealed when you are tested, when you are stretched, when you are pushed to the edge of what you think you can handle. It's in the pressure, in the challenge, in the discomfort where you find out who you really are and what you're really capable of. Without that stretch, you never activate the deeper parts of your strength, your creativity, your vision. You can live an entire life inside the walls of comfort and never even scratch the surface of the greatness inside you. And the tragedy is that most people will. They will trade their legacy for convenience, their potential for predictability, their calling for safety. The comfort zone whispers lies that sound true. It tells you that if you just stay here, you'll be fine. It tells you that risk is dangerous, that failure is fatal, that discomfort means stop. But the comfort zone doesn't tell you the whole story. It doesn't tell you that the longer you stay, the smaller you become. It doesn't tell you that comfort slowly drains your energy, your ambition, your passion. It doesn't tell you that while you're safe, you're also stagnant, and that stagnation robs you of the life force that makes you feel alive. Comfort might protect you from pain in the short term, but in the long term it suffocates your spirit. And no one builds a legacy from a place of suffocation. Your legacy is the imprint you leave on the world, the difference you make, the lives you touch, the mark you carve into time. And legacies are not built by avoiding discomfort. They are built by embracing it. They are built by leaning into the things that scare you, by pursuing the things that challenge you, by stepping into arenas where you might not win, but you will certainly grow. Every step into the unknown is a step closer to your potential. And every step into your potential is a brick laid in the foundation of your legacy. That is the process. A legacy is not one big event. It is the accumulation of thousands of courageous choices to leave the comfort zone in pursuit of something greater. Consider the difference between existing and truly living. Existing is what happens when you stay inside the comfort zone. You wake up, you repeat the same routines, you go through the motions. Days blend into weeks, weeks into years, and eventually into decades. And at the end of it, you realize you existed, but you never truly lived. Living is what happens when you dare to step into discomfort. When you say yes to the opportunities that scare you, when you take risks that force you to grow, when you challenge yourself to become more than you were yesterday, that's where you feel alive. That's where fulfillment is born. That's where potential is awakened, and that's the soil from which legacy grows. The comfort zone keeps you hidden. It shields you from judgment, from criticism, from failure, but it also shields you from impact. You cannot inspire anyone by playing small. You cannot change lives by staying invisible. You cannot leave a legacy by hiding in what feels safe. The very things you're avoiding by staying in comfort, risk, failure, rejection, are the very gateways to your legacy. Because legacy is never built on what was easy, it's built on what was hard. It's built on the challenges you overcame, the risks you took, the battles you fought. It's built on the moments you wanted to quit but didn't, the moments you were afraid but acted anyway, the moments you were uncomfortable but kept going. That's what people remember. That's what inspires. That's what echoes beyond your lifetime. Inside you right now is untapped potential waiting to be unlocked. Abilities you don't even know you have, strengths you've never been forced to discover, levels of creativity, resilience, and leadership that will only emerge when life demands them. But life can only demand them if you step out of comfort. Discomfort is the invitation to growth. It is the training ground where potential is forged. It is the space where you stop being who you've always been and start becoming who you were meant to be. And if you refuse that invitation, if you spend your life hiding in comfort, that potential stays buried forever. And with it, the legacy you could have built remains undone when you step outside the comfort zone. You don't just change your life, you change the lives around you. You become a model of what's possible. You give others permission to be brave, to take risks, to rise above mediocrity. Your courage becomes contagious, your growth becomes an example, your life becomes a beacon. That is legacy. It's not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process and the ripple effect that who you become creates. And all of it hinges on whether or not you're willing to leave the comfort zone. Comfort is tempting, but greatness never lives there. Safety feels good, but legacy never grows there. Potential is infinite, but it will never be activated inside the walls of predictability. The life you were meant to live, the mark you were meant to make, the person you were meant to become. All of it is waiting, but it's waiting outside the comfort zone where few people are willing to go. And that is why so few live the life they dream of, and so few leave behind a legacy that outlasts them. Because they choose comfort instead of courage, safety instead of risk, ease instead of growth. But for the ones who choose differently, for the ones who dare to step outside, everything changes.